Christmas. Christmas was yesterday, and I'm here to wish you Merry Christmas once again. And I want to know how you spent your Christmas. How did you spend your Christmas? Hello, good morning. How are you doing? Merry Christmas to you. How did you spend your Christmas? Where are you chatting from? Sorry, where are you streaming my live from? Yeah, what's up? How are you doing, bro? What's good, man? Sharp. Where are you live streaming from? Same here, same here. Please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to my channel. I do short movies on my YouTube channel here, and I currently am about to post a new movie that I have done. Oh, where are you going to? Where are you going to?
You're joking. Not another one?
morning, guys. Good morning, guys. Merry Christmas to you all. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel and write me so that we can talk. Taffy, how are you doing? Where are you streaming from? Taffy, where are you chatting me from? Guys, please don't forget to drop a like. At least leave a like to support the channel. What do you mean by wheat? Do you speak English? Where are you from? Where are you chatting from, or where are you live streaming from? How did you spend your Christmas? Oh, nice. That's good. That's good. So, how did you spend your Christmas? How did you spend your Christmas? How did you spend your Christmas? Hmm. That's nice. If you really mean that. Okay. Hello. How are you doing? How are you doing? You're UK, but you speak like Japanese. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. And the way I spent my Christmas, you won't believe. Should I tell you? Should I tell you how I spent my Christmas? Yeah, thank you for the like. I really appreciate. God bless you. Thank you for the like. It really means a lot to me and my channel. It helps to take this life to reach more people. You can share the live stream. Oh, I really appreciate. Thank you very much for the like. I really appreciate. God bless. God bless. God bless. I'm so happy. Thank you. Thank you.
decoration board can get moved, and then this pile of junk that I do not know where it came from needs to go. So my thought is we do like an entertainment center that takes up the whole span here. We're going to try to go for more of a masculine vibe with some dark and moody tones, and I think putting that all into the AI generator should give us some cool concepts.
Yeah, let's continue our conversation, please.
Oh,
Can we?
your robot brain. Fire up
Do you
Midjourney.
want me to
Here's
tell
something.
you how I
They're
spent
called
my
gaming
Christmas?
console unit center. Parameters. That. I'm super curious to see inspiration-wise what this thing comes up with, because a lot of times with AI, what happens is the shapes can't be created. They have a lot of like weird shit going on that doesn't allow it to actually work. Two, they use materials that make absolutely no sense. And then three, they overuse colors and textures in ways that like aren't really applicable. So I'm really curious to see what they've got. Okay, so we're using Midjourney again. Subscription required. I thought you paid for it.
I stopped because I'm trying to save money.
Wow. Be right back. Now that the credit card's working again. So we're prompting with parametric designed wall cabinets and shelves.
Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. I'm asking, how did you spend your Christmas? How did you spend your Christmas? Please, guys, don't forget to leave a like and interact with us via the comment section.
The AI completely disregarded the fact that like you can't store a vase on a sloped corner. So to actually build it, we had to like think a lot deeper than we normally would because nothing's square. So the best we came up with, and then what I think is going to make the most sense, is we're going to start with the face frame. We're going to cut that out of the CNC, laminate the whole thing together, and then I'll start building the back end for the boxes behind it to turn it into a full unit. Once we're done with the lamination of the CNC parts, I'm going to come back in, carve some nuances, add some details and stuff by hand, make it look hyper custom, and then we can start assembling what's going to be the carcass or the unit itself. This thing looks so rad. I am pumped. I know we're all pretty pumped about this one. This is cool. The parts have started to come off the CNC, and as you can see, they are massive. Thanks, AI. This is a cabinet on one side. They're so big. This is going to be either so sick I throw up or so hideous I throw it away. At the end of the day, if it sucks, it's just a couple $100 in MDF, right? All right, there's $1,000 in MDF. This is going to take up the whole floor. It's going to be hilarious. Kind of like making this up as we go. I'm going to glue the laminations together like this, and I will use a composite fastener in it, so that way when I come back through, I'm going to carve some shape into this, because I think it'll add a lot of body. And if you look at some of these renderings that we came up with, they're just neat. And so I think carving it will give it some like very
You don't sleep in the UK? I'm confused. Why?
She's huge. I'll do a little domino joinery here, huh? A little dominowski, a little ding dong. Now, how are you
I'm quite confused. Please make me understand. What do you mean? Are you having fun? You got me there. You got me there. You got me there. You got me there. Like, I was so scared. Okay. I was like, are you having a war in your country? Or
over in this section, there's kind of like this divot.
you're having fun throughout the day and night?
Like up here and stuff. They give
Also confused though.
That's the kind of stuff I'm gonna carve.
Also
And just
confused.
kind of like even out some of these lines, give us a little bit more dimension. So it
Do you
doesn't
want me
look
to
so
tell you
flat.
how I
They're
spent
really
my
close on
Christmas?
how to do this. So I'm basically gonna just like kind of sketch some shit, and I think break it down and go back.
Yeah, I get it. I get you now. I get you now. I was a bit confused before.
Not like can't breathe. Turn the recording off.
I'm in Nigeria. From Nigeria. Thank you for the sub. Thank you for the sub. Thank you for the likes. I really appreciate you. God bless. God bless. And if you're new to my channel, I do short movies here on my channel. You can go check it out and comment. Tell me what you think about it so I can keep producing more. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Being in Nigeria is really cool, but there are some downsides. There are some downsides, but we are not here to talk about that, okay?
It's getting dark out here. I'm just gonna keep working on this.
So
Finishing it up. The
today is
fire's
another
burning really
day.
well. I hate it
What
when
will
it's
you be
dark
doing
inside, and
today?
it's looking cool. Like this has me fired up. I'm really liking the way that it's starting to just kind of look a little bit more homogeneous and put together. So I gotta
Can you
really give
tell me your
myself
name?
more
What's
hours
your
to
real
put this
name?
whole thing
Like your real
together.
name?
So while
What's
I
the
do that,
real
the rest
name?
of the
Your
guys
real
are gonna
name.
hop into the office, get that thing prepped and painted and looking way
What's
better
your
than what it
name?
is. So when we go to install this, it's all ready to rock and roll. Oh,
I would like to know your name. I would like to know your name, dear.
Saitama is a weak human who one day decided to become a hero. He trained every day for 3 years, which broke his limiter and gave him the power of God, allowing him to defeat any opponent with a single punch, no matter how big or powerful. One punch is enough. His punches are so strong that the shockwave alone can split the mountain and cut atmosphere in half. He is so powerful that he can jump from the moon to Earth faster than the speed of light. And it all began in Japan, when a sudden explosion happens, just when people look out of window.
You've been waiting for this all year, and it is the time.
The series begins by showcasing a mysterious zombie virus outbreak that spreads mysterious.
Number one, the country of beer, bread,
Welcome to the
and
channel.
sausages. Germany is a
Welcome
beer
to the
paradise
channel.
known
Don't
for
forget to
1,000,
drop
300
a
breweries
like
in
and
operation,
subscribe
and
to the
around
channel.
5,000 different types of beer. Here, drinking beer during breaks at work is not
Merry
prohibited.
Christmas.
As
Merry
long as the
Christmas. If
drinker
you're
does not
just
get
new,
drunk
if you're
and
just
can
coming
still
in,
perform their
Merry
job.
Christmas to
Beer in
you.
Germany is
And
not
we're
merely a
waiting for
beverage.
New
It is
Year.
regulated by a national law dating back to 1,000.
So, how did you spend your Christmas?
Known as the Reinheitsgebot, or the Beer Purity Law. This law stipulates that beer can only be made.
When people hear the words mouse and rat, they often picture the same thing, a small, fast-moving rodent darting across the floor. But while mice and rats are closely related, they are far from identical. In fact, the differences between them go far beyond size alone. From behavior.
My pixel graceful collect is penguin. Hey, that's a night factors that work in water.
Behavior and intelligence to diet, habitat, and even how humans perceive them, the mouse versus rat comparison reveals two animals that have taken surprisingly different paths to survival. Understanding these differences not only clears up common misconceptions, but also explains why these rodents interact with the world and us in such distinct ways. Let's explore right here on History of Simple Things. At first glance, size is the most obvious difference. Mice are generally small, lightweight creatures with slender bodies, large ears, and pointed snouts. Their tails are long and thin, often nearly the same length as their bodies. Rats, on the other hand, are noticeably larger and heavier, with thicker bodies, broader heads, and shorter ears in proportion to their size. A fully grown rat can be several times heavier than a mouse, making the contrast immediately clear when the two are seen side by side. This size difference isn't just cosmetic. It plays a major role in how each animal moves, eats, and survives in its environment. Behavior is where the gap between mice and rats becomes even more interesting. Mice are naturally curious and bold, often exploring new objects and unfamiliar spaces with little hesitation. This curiosity helps them find food quickly, but it also makes them more vulnerable to traps. Rats, by contrast, are cautious and highly suspicious of anything new. This behavior, known as neophobia, makes rats notoriously difficult to catch. They will often avoid unfamiliar food or objects for days, sometimes watching other rats interact with them first. This cautious nature has earned rats a reputation for being clever survivors, especially in urban environments. Intelligence and social behavior further separate these two rodents.
Hey,
While
what's
mice
up?
are intelligent in their own right, rats are
How are you
widely
doing?
considered to be among the smartest rodents. Rats can learn complex
How
tasks,
are you doing?
solve puzzles, and even demonstrate
You're
empathy
welcome
toward
to the
other
channel.
rats.
You're welcome to
They
the
are
live
highly
stream.
social animals,
How are you
living in
doing?
structured groups where cooperation and communication are essential. Mice, on
Yeah,
the
where
other
are you
hand,
where you
are
where are you
more
live streaming
territorial
from?
and less cooperative.
Where are you
Male mice
chatting
in
from?
particular can be aggressive toward one another, which limits their ability to live in large, stable groups. These social differences shape how each species spreads, survives, and interacts with humans.
Can you hear me?
Diet is another area where mice and rats overlap, yet differ in important ways. Both are omnivores, capable of eating grains, fruits, vegetables, meat, and human food scraps. However, mice tend to nibble small amounts from many food sources, while rats consume larger portions and are more willing to tackle tougher foods. Rats are strong enough to chew through harder materials and will often drag food back to a nest to share with others. Mice usually eat where they find food, taking quick bites before moving on. This difference in feeding behavior is one reason rat infestations tend to cause more visible damage. Habitat preferences also set these rodents apart. Mice prefer to stay hidden indoors, nesting inside walls, ceilings, and small enclosed spaces where they feel safe. They can squeeze through incredibly tiny openings, sometimes no larger than a coin, which makes them expert infiltrators of homes. Rats, while capable climbers, are more often found in basements, sewers, garbage areas, and outdoor burrows. Some rat species are excellent swimmers, capable of traveling through sewer systems and emerging inside buildings through plumbing. This adaptability allows rats to thrive in cities across the world. Reproduction is another key difference that explains why mice and rats are such persistent pests. Mice reproduce at an astonishing rate, reaching sexual maturity quickly and producing many litters each year. Their short life cycle means populations can explode in a very short time. Rats reproduce more slowly by comparison, but they live longer and invest more in raising their young. This results in fewer offspring overall, but higher survival rates. Both strategies are effective, just in different ways. When it comes to human perception, mice and rats could not be more different.
You
Mice
saw
are
a
often
shadow
seen as
behind
indoor
me. Yeah, that's
harmless,
my body.
thanks in part to cartoons,
Yeah,
children's
that's my
toys, and
friend.
laboratory research. Rats, meanwhile, have long been associated with disease, filth, and fear.
Yeah, it's not too far.
Historically,
It's just
rats played
here.
a role in spreading illnesses like the bubonic plague,
It's just
cementing their
here,
negative
alright?
reputation. However, modern research has shown that rats are clean animals that groom
I
themselves
have no
frequently
cotton here.
and avoid waste when possible. The fear of rats is often cultural rather than
I have no
scientific.
cotton here. Nailed it. I
In a
blew your
direct
cover.
confrontation, a rat would almost always dominate a mouse. Rats are larger, stronger, and more aggressive when threatened. In the wild, rats may even prey on mice, especially when food is scarce. Mice rely on speed and quickness to survive. Rats
Yo,
depend on strength,
yo, bruh.
this predator-prey dynamic is just how
Where are
deeply
you
rooted
from?
rodents truly
I
are.
really like your communication. Where are you from?
So when it comes to mouse versus rat, the question isn't which one is better, but how each has evolved to survive in its own way. Mice are small, fast, and curious, thriving in hidden spaces, and rats are larger, smarter, and more cautious, dominating urban environments through intelligence and adaptability. Together, present two very different survival strategies, both remarkably successful
Hmm.
and both
So, how did you
fascinating
spend
as
your
their reputation
Christmas? How did
suggests.
you spend your Christmas? Hope it was great.
Thank you for watching.
Or you were
If
just
you have
home
suggestions for our next video, feel
watching
free to share them in the
Netflix.
comments below. We'll be sure to give you an
Yeah, I will
acknowledgement for
be
your
careful.
contribution.
I will definitely be careful.
If you enjoyed this
Thanks
video,
for that.
check
Thanks for
out our
that. I will.
bingeable channels. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like.
Lagos. Okay. But now where are you? You were in Lagos, but now where are you? Did you move out from Lagos? Where are you now? Singapore. Oh, that's great. That's nice. Where you base? Is that where you live? And there for a vacation or for Christmas or to visit? Is that where you stay? Or you based in Lagos? Uh,
Right now, above you, some.
uh, no, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I'm fine. I'm fine, okay? I'm fine. There's nothing here. There's no one here. I'm not scared. I'm not scared.
Ready to trade the family's last two goats for these magic rocks. Ignore
I'm not
mercenary
scared.
protests. When Melquiades hears Buendia's planning
No
to
one
use
is
the
here.
magnets to strike gold, he breaks the bad news that magnets
So
can't
what's your
precious
name?
metals. But Buendia
What's your
tells him
name? Are
that
you a
while
girl? Are
making
you a
gold
boy?
might not budge, a whopping
Are you a man? Are you a
30 feet
woman?
into the story.
What's your real name?
Melquiades is impressed by Buendia.
Are you still here?
Grandpa wanted to prove that snakes are inherently lascivious, so he forcibly captured a female snake from the mountains and brought it home. Just as Grandpa was about to hold the female snake and sleep 300 times, the female snake suddenly transformed into a beautiful woman. She looked at Grandpa and begged, "Elder, if you spare me today, when I ascend to become a dragon in the future, I will bestow blessings upon your unborn grandson. I guarantee he will live a life of great wealth and prosperity." Upon hearing this,
Where are you?
Grandpa immediately thought of me, his unborn grandson.
Where did you
So he
go?
agreed to the female snake's request. and released her back into the mountain. At first, the family thought,
Mr. B, give me some money. Give me some money. Mr. B, give me some money. Give me some money. Mr.
Grandpa wanted
B,
to prove that snakes are inherently lascivious, so he forcibly captured a female snake
give
from
me
the
some
mountains and brought it home.
money.
Just as Grandpa was about to hold the female snake and sleep
Give me
300
some
times,
money.
the female snake
Mr.
suddenly
Beast,
transformed into
give
a
me
beautiful
some
woman.
money.
She looked at Grandpa and begged, Elliot,
Uh,
if you spare me today, when I ascend to become a dragon in the future, I will bestow blessings upon your unborn grandson. I guarantee he will live a life of great wealth and
so
prosperity.
tired.
Upon hearing this, Grandpa immediately thought of me, his unborn grandson. So he agreed to the
I'm
female
so
snake's
tired.
request and released her
Truly
back into the
tired.
mountains. At first, the family all thought this was just Grandpa's drunken nonsense. That is, until the day my mom went into labor. A sudden heavy rainstorm hit on an otherwise clear day. By nightfall, the river water outside the village had risen to the doorstep of our house. Other villagers had moved to higher ground early, but our family was trapped at home because my mom was having a difficult delivery. It was past 10 o'clock at night, and my mom's voice was already hoarse, yet I still hadn't been born. Seeing this, the village midwife told my dad to prepare himself mentally, and to decide whether to save my mom or me if it came down to it. Grandpa, standing beside them, said nothing. He just stared intently at the dark sky, as if expecting something. Just then, a bolt of lightning tore through the darkness, followed immediately by a deafening clap of thunder. The moment the thunder faded, my cries echoed from inside the house. But before the family could even celebrate, our courtyard gate was suddenly smashed open with a loud bang. A bright red painted coffin was washed in by the river water and quietly came to rest across the courtyard. Since ancient times, there has been a saying, a cat coming brings poverty, a dog coming brings wealth, and a coffin at the door dooms 3 generations. Moreover, this coffin in the courtyard not only entered the gate, but also seemed to be an ancient coffin washed down from the mountains. While the whole family stood there, dumbfounded and at a loss, Grandpa suddenly burst into laughter and said, "This is a blessing from heaven." The water official sending a wife. My grandson will definitely be a man of great wealth and prosperity in the future. In my dad's words now, Grandpa had gone crazy by then. He spent all day reading a book on feng shui and metaphysics, his mind filled with all sorts of strange and eccentric things. Later, Grandpa even kept that coffin, placing it in his own room. Fortunately, nothing bad happened to the family afterward, and the existence of the coffin was gradually never mentioned again. When I was 5 years old, my dad planned to have a second child, so he tricked me into sleeping with Grandpa. That was when I found out. Grandpa offered sacrifices to that coffin every day, and just a few days after I moved in with him, Grandpa lured me with candy, making me kowtow 3 times to the coffin while wearing a red cloth on my head. He also said the person inside would be my wife in the future, and told me to treat her well. I was too young then to understand what it meant. I just thought it was fun, and there was candy to eat. But by the time I realized how absurd this whole thing was, it was already too late. Besides that, Grandpa taught me feng shui and metaphysics every day. He taught me this for over a decade. When I turned 18, Grandpa's hair had turned completely white, and his eyes had grown cloudy. I knew his time was running out. In his final days alive, Grandpa stayed alone in his room every day, talking strange things to that coffin. It felt to me as if he was talking to a real person. On the day Grandpa passed away, he called me to his side and told me to do 2 things. First, after he died, he must be buried in that coffin in his room. He also said someone would come to steal it and told me to guard it at all costs. Second, he told me to treat my wife well in the future and to protect her no matter what. I was just about to ask him more questions, but Grandpa wouldn't let me, urging me to promise him repeatedly. Seeing how agitated he was, I quickly nodded in agreement. Right after I nodded,
Guys, don't
Grandpa
forget to
slowly
leave a
closed his
like
eyes
and
and
subscribe
stopped
to the
breathing.
channel.
My dad had
Thank
been an
you
honest man
very
his whole
much.
life and
Merry
very
Christmas,
filial.
Merry
He
Christmas,
agreed to
Merry
Grandpa's
Christmas,
last
Merry
wish,
Christmas,
and
Merry
together with my
Christmas.
uncle, they pried open the coffin in the room.
Merry
The
Christmas,
family had made
guys.
preparations before opening it, so they had specially prepared a brand new coffin to collect the dry bones they expected to find inside the old one. But when the coffin was opened, everyone was stunned. Inside the coffin were not the dry bones they expected, but a lifelike female corpse. The corpse had not decomposed at all. She was still very beautiful, like a sleeping beauty. I thought to myself that if I could marry someone like her, it would be worth living 10 years less. But unfortunately, she was a dead person. Just as I was lost in these thoughts, a strange fragrance suddenly drifted out of the coffin. In no time at all, the entire village was filled with this fragrance. Seeing this, my face turned pale instantly. This was corpse fragrance. Corpse fragrance lures demons for 100 miles. It stirs ghosts and dooms all who seek it. It was only at this moment that I understood the two things Grandpa had told me. The second thing was actually the most troublesome. I looked at the villagers being drawn over by the fragrance, my mind in a mess. There was no way I could hide the truth any longer. So I told them everything Grampy had been doing secretly all these years. Even my dad, who had been honest and filial his entire life, couldn't hold back after hearing this. He kicked Grandpa's mortuary table twice. At this moment, second uncle, who had been out in the world for years, was the first to calm down. He looked at me and asked Yang Yang, "How much skill have you learned from your grandpa over these years?" I answered truthfully, most of it, about 80%. Second uncle didn't care whether Grandpa's knowledge was reliable or not. He just looked serious and asked, "Then what do you think? Should we do now?" I shook my head, calming myself down. I looked at the female corpse lying on the bed, my mood growing complicated. In the current situation, burning the corpse was undoubtedly the best option. Gritting my teeth, I was just about to say we should carry the female corpse out and burn it, but suddenly remembered what Grandpa had said before. Corpse fragrance is cinnabar fragrance. In other words, this female corpse had already formed an inner core inside her body. She was probably someone of great significance. For a moment, the words got stuck in my throat, and my mind became even more confused. By then, Mom had caught her breath. She looked at second uncle anxiously and asked, "Brother-in-law, Grandpa has always been unreliable. How can you let Yang Yang, a kid, handle this?" Second uncle looked at Mom and Dad, his face dark, and asked, "Then what do you suggest? We do now?" This question left Dad and Mom speechless at once. I took a deep breath, thought for a moment, and turned to second uncle. "I want to move the female corpse to the old house." The old house was halfway up the mountain, just far away from the village. But it had been given to second uncle when the family split property. Second uncle hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Later, Dad sent away the villagers who had gathered to watch. While no one was around, I wrapped the female corpse in a black cloth and carried her on my back to the old house. Second uncle was rarely home, so the old house was so dilapidated it was almost falling down. Fortunately, it could still barely keep out the wind and rain. I found a room and laid the female corpse on the bed, probably because of the wind along the way. By the time we got here, the corpse fragrance had faded a lot. After putting the corpse down, I prepared to leave. After all, Grandpa hadn't been buried yet. But just as I turned around, I felt a pair of eyes staring at me from behind. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the corpse had come back to life? I turned around scared, only to see the female corpse's eyes still tightly closed. I finally let out a sigh of relief. Before leaving, I sprinkled some plant ash around the bed to temporarily cover up the corpse fragrance. After doing this, I got up to leave, but just as I reached the door, a click sound came from behind me. I turned back to look and saw an ancient book on the ground. It seemed to have just fallen from the female corpse. I walked quickly to the bed, picked up the book from the floor, closed my eyes and tucked it back under the corpse's waist. Then I turned around and hurried out of the room. After locking the door, I sniffed. The plant ash was working. The corpse fragrance was much weaker now, but the wind in the mountains was strong, so I guessed it wouldn't be long before the smell was blown away. If it didn't blow away, whoever wanted the corpse could take it. That's why I moved it here, far from the village. It wouldn't involve too many people. If someone took it away, I wouldn't have to deal with the trouble anymore. Thinking this way, I felt much lighter. As for what Grandpa had told me to do, that would require me to have the ability first. The shoddy skills he taught me. I didn't think they could keep this woman safe. Back home, second uncle asked me how it went. I lied, saying, once we finish arranging Grandpa's funeral, there won't be any more problems. Probably because of the female corpse incident. I didn't have much time to grieve. I hid alone in my room and pulled out Grandpa's chest. Grandpa was a man who cared about appearances. He didn't have much real skill. but he had a lot of gear. There was a peachwood sword, a coin sword, talismans, all sorts of things. Under the chest, there was also a yellow Taoist robe. I rummaged for a long time, then took out the talismans. I put everything else back in the chest, untouched. But despite all my careful preparations, Grandpa's funeral turned out surprisingly peaceful. 3 days later, Grandpa was finally buried in that old coffin as he'd wished. Watching my relatives and friends gradually leave, I secretly let out a sigh of relief. Yet unconsciously, my thoughts turned back to that female corpse. So many days had passed. Surely someone must have taken it by now, right? But in the middle of the night, I tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep no matter what. In the end, I couldn't hold back anymore. I grabbed my gear and headed to the old house. The whole way there, I kept thinking, if I could help, I would. If I really couldn't, I'd just have to watch what happened. After all, if what the book said was true, the things attracted by the corpse fragrance wouldn't be kind. I couldn't even fight them. I'd never even seen them before. As for a wife, I'd be better off marrying someone alive later, lost in these random thoughts. I reached the mountainside before I knew it, but just then, a group of figures appeared on the path down the mountain. From their momentum, they were heading straight for my family's old house. I quickly crouched down, hiding aside. Soon the group reached the old house's door. Coincidentally, the moonlight brightened right at that moment. When I saw what they looked like clearly, I gasped sharply. These weren't humans at all. They were paper figures, their faces stiff, dressed in gaudy red and green. When the paper figures drew closer, I noticed 4 of them were carrying a small sedan chair behind them. Running into something this creepy right after going out, I must have had the worst luck ever. But I was too close to them now. The slightest movement would immediately get me discovered by those paper figures. While I was panicking, a yellow weasel jumped down from the sedan chair. A normal yellow weasel, I could kill one with a single stone, but this one from the sedan chair looked almost human. It was wearing a bright red outfit, its tiny bean-sized eyes glowing with a greenish light. Seeing this, I understood. This yellow weasel had come for the female corpse, and its intention was obvious. Watching its excited twitching legs, anger welled up inside me. Even if it was something I didn't want, I wouldn't let it get it so easily. This yellow immortal stuff was only a thing in the Northeast, where we lived. Even if it looked human, we only saw it as a chicken thief. Just as I was looking around for a stone, the yellow weasel walked slowly to the door. It held its paws together and bowed toward the inside of the house. Then it spoke in a human voice. "My dear wife, your husband has come to take you back to the mountain." Hearing it actually speak like a human, I was so shocked that I dropped the stone I'd just picked up. Then the yellow weasel walked toward the door, its steps eager. When it reached the entrance, the 2 stiff paper figures behind it moved to help it push the door open. Watching its arrogant manner, the female corpse's face kept popping into my mind. This yellow weasel didn't care if she was dead or alive. If she fell into its claws, she'd definitely be desecrated. Thinking this, I picked up the stone again and threw it at once. The yellow weasel had just lifted its leg to step inside. When the stone I threw hit it right on the back of the head, it yelped in pain and fell straight to the ground. But it quickly got back up, scanning the area with its glowing green eyes. "Who's sneaking around behind me? Come out right now!" After throwing the stone, I'd hidden back in my original spot. But right after throwing it, I instantly regretted it. Provoking this thing. I'd definitely be in for trouble later. But just as I was kicking myself, I suddenly felt a pair of eyes staring at me from behind. I slowly turned my head to look, and there stood the yellow weasel, right behind me. It was looking at me with a sneaky grin. I froze for a few seconds, then reacted. I grabbed it by the neck and slammed it hard onto the ground. The yellow weasel let out a shrill scream, scratching 2 bleeding gashes on my hand with its claws. The sharp pain made me fling it away. It rolled several times on the ground, then got back up. It glared at me with its mung bean-sized eyes, snarling, "You kid. Don't you even ask around? Who doesn't know me in these 100 miles? Guangzhou, how dare you ruin my plans? I'll kill you!" Facing the aggressive yellow weasel, I lost my temper too. I was a living person. How could I be afraid of it?
Good
I
morning,
took out
good
the talismans
morning.
I'd brought and prepared to deal with it. But Huangzhou just stood there,
How are you
not
doing?
scared at all. Instead, it gave a sinister smile. Then its eyes flashed green, and I suddenly felt lightheaded. My mind growing fuzzy, the several paper figures standing behind it also started closing in on me. My heart skipped a beat. This was bad. Yellow weasels were good at bewitching people's minds. From the way things were going, I'd clearly fallen for its trick. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, I bit down hard on my tongue. Instantly, I came to my senses again. Then I took the talismans in my hand and threw them at the paper figures. The moment the talismans hit the paper figures, they burst into flames. In a few seconds, the paper figures burned to ashes. Then, several small yellow weasels scurried out of the ashes and fled. Huangju's eyes flickered. It tried to bewitch me again, but I didn't give it a chance to use its bewitching trick. I pulled out another talisman and threw it straight at it. Huangju reacted quickly. It leaped several meters away in an instant, dodging the talisman. I could tell it was afraid of the talismans in my hand. I quickly took out another one and chased after it. Seeing how bold I was, Huangju panicked. It turned around, stuck up its butt, and sprayed a cloud of yellow smoke at me. This thing could speak human language. It must have cultivated for 100 years or so. That old fart stench. It made my eyes water non-stop. I retched violently. I waved my hand to fan away the smoke. While stepping back, and Huangju took the chance to run far away with the small weasels. Before leaving, it looked back at me angrily, shouting, "You kid? How dare you mess with me? Let me tell you, Huangju, you're dead meat. Not even immortals can save you now." The old fart stench made my head spin. I didn't have the energy to reply. By the time I recovered, Huangju and the small weasels had long since disappeared.
My capacity cell press will connect with a payment. Compare das of 955,000.
I didn't chase after them. Instead, I pushed open the door and walked inside. The female corpse was still lying quietly on the bed. "You troublemaker. You almost got me gassed to death by that yellow weasel." I didn't know if I was happy or upset. I just stared at her and cursed. Then I looked at the female corpse, confused. I had no idea what to do with her now. I just hoped Huangju wasn't bragging. I hoped it really was the strongest around these parts. That way, even if the corpse fragrance spread for 100 miles later, other things wouldn't dare come and fight it for her. At least I felt confident about dealing with Huangju. In that moment, my confidence soared. Fear was gone, replaced by boldness. I simply climbed onto the bed and lay down next to the female corpse. After all, this bed was the cleanest thing in the room. I lay there lost in random thoughts, and before I knew it, the corpse fragrance in the room grew stronger again. I inhaled some of it, and the scent gradually formed a warm current that spread through every part of my body. When I realized something was wrong and tried to get up, I was horrified to find I couldn't move a muscle. Even my eyelids felt too heavy to lift. As the corpse fragrance grew thicker, it felt like a fire was burning in my lower abdomen. Worse still, a rustling sound started beside me. It was as if the female corpse had come back to life and was moving her body. By then, I was already regretting it. Why did I have to do this? Why did I have to lie next to her? If she really came back to life, she'd suck me dry for sure. As the saying goes, fear attracts what you fear most. I was still panicking and overthinking, when suddenly, something cold and soft covered my mouth. Instead of biting my neck to suck blood, she bit my mouth. I was confused, but the cold, cool feeling was surprisingly nice. It even made me forget my fear. After a few seconds, her cold lips left mine. I felt a strange sense of longing, wanting to lift my head and continue, but my body wouldn't move, leaving me only with regret. Amid the rustling, it seemed the female corpse lay back down again. My mind, filled with messy thoughts, grew heavier and heavier, and before I knew it, I fell asleep. Early the next morning, I jolted awake, sitting up straight in bed. After taking a few deep breaths, I looked at the female corpse first. She was still lying quietly on the bed, as if she'd never moved. But when I got out of bed, I realized she had moved. Her body had shifted a little outward, farther away from me. It was as if she was disgusted by me. The thought made me gasp. Could it be that she wasn't dead at all? I hesitated for a moment, standing there, then decided I needed to check. I needed to see if she had a heartbeat. With that thought, I reached out toward her chest. Through her clothes, her body felt cold. Worried the result might be inaccurate, I kept my hand there for a while. After more than 10 minutes, I was sure she had no heartbeat. Reluctantly, I pulled my hand back. I felt like I'd done something wrong, my face burning bright red with embarrassment. I didn't dare stay any longer. So I turned to leave. Before going out, I remembered the book under her body. Feeling guilty, I found an excuse and looked at her. "I didn't mean to touch you on purpose," I said, "but if I don't find out for sure, I might end up burning you with a fire later. As I spoke, I reached under her body, then took out the book. After leaving the old house, I still felt guilty. As I walked, I kept feeling like someone was staring at me from behind. But after taking a few steps, I realized it wasn't just guilt. There really was a pair of eyes staring at me the whole time. It turned out a yellow weasel had been following me. I ignored it, continuing to walk forward. When I got home, Mom looked at me, wanting to say something, but holding back. In the end, she just told me to be careful, and to tell the family if anything happened. I nodded in response, then hid in my room and took out the old book. But when I opened the first page, my heart skipped a beat. Because this was actually the second volume of the book Grandpa used to read, after the shock. I fell into deep confusion. Could Grandpa have some connection to that coffin? Or had Grandpa hidden this book there himself? But after quickly reading through the whole book, I was certain Grandpa couldn't have hidden this book. Because the second volume was about a chi cultivation method, and only if you had chi in your body. Could the contents of the first volume be useful? The reason Grandpa was only half skilled was exactly because he lacked this chi in his body. Given how obsessed he was with the first volume, if he'd had the second volume, he would never have hidden it. Could it be that Grandpa had met the female corpse before, or her people, and gotten the first volume from them? I read the second volume again carefully, and my entire worldview was shaken once more, because the contents of this volume were enough to drive a normal person insane. Unfortunately, after reading it for a long time, I still couldn't figure out what it was saying. At noon during lunch, I didn't see Second Uncle. So I asked Dad, "Where's Second Uncle?" Dad said Second Uncle had already gone back to the city, and had left an address for me before leaving, telling me to find him if anything happened. But it was just a yellow weasel. I didn't think it would cause any real trouble, so I put Second Uncle's address away. Early the next morning, while the adults were out in the fields working, I ran to the chicken coop and caught a big rooster. I took some hemp thread from Mom's shoemaking kit, then snuck back to the old house. A yellow weasel was still following me along the way. I lifted the rooster in my hand, feeling secretly proud. They say there's no man who doesn't cheat, and similarly, there's no yellow weasel that doesn't steal chickens. That woman was still a troublemaker. Sooner or later, she'd attract someone stronger than Huang Zhou. When I arrived, I killed the rooster in the yard and deliberately spilled its blood all over the yard. At the smell of chicken blood, the yellow weasel watching me from a distance had stars in its eyes. But I didn't want to catch just one small one. I planned to catch them all in one go. After handling the rooster, I stewed the whole chicken in a pot I found at the old house. Then I sat beside the female corpse's bed and made several nooses. By the time I finished the nooses, the chicken in the pot was just half cooked. I tore off the chicken's butt, pretending to be disgusted by it, and threw it into the woods. Sure enough, the yellow weasel following me couldn't resist going after it. Seeing it leave, I hurried to set up traps outside the yard. I cut the half-cooked chicken into several pieces, placing one piece in each trap. Then I covered the nooses with leaves. Once everything was set up, I went inside and waited. But I waited from day till night, and there was no movement outside the house. Could it be that Huang Zhou was scared? At the thought, pride swelled in my chest. Then I looked at the female corpse lying on the bed again, and suddenly thought, I still needed to find out if she was dead or alive. The best way, of course, was to check for a heartbeat again. Just as my hand was halfway to her chest, there was a sudden knock on the door. The unexpected knock startled me. I pulled my hand back, staring warily at the door. "Who's knocking out there?" I called. But outside was completely quiet. No one answered, so I pulled open the door to check, but the outside was empty. Not a single person in sight. Only 7 or 8 gold beads were scattered on the ground. I didn't go to pick up the gold beads, because the book had said, spirits in the mountains hold grudges, but also remember kindness, and yellow weasels were especially like this. They dug holes in the mountains all year round, and sometimes stumbled into ancient tombs there. When they found valuable things, they would hide them, saving them for when they wanted to repay a favor or take revenge. If I picked them up now, I would fall for its bewitching trick. This trick was nothing but an insult to my intelligence. I ignored the things on the ground, turned around and went back inside. Thinking that Huang Zhou had come for the female corpse, I couldn't help but look at her on the bed. I had to admit, she was truly beautiful. So beautiful that I almost wanted to check her heartbeat again. Just as I was lost in thought, a rustling sound came from the grass outside the door. My heart tightened. He really came after all. I hid in the corner, staring intently at the yard. Soon Huangzhou appeared at the gate. He was extremely cautious, first wandering around nearby a few times, then sneaking forward while sniffing the air. Just as I thought he was about to fall into the trap, Huangzhou suddenly stopped. He waved his paw, and at the signal, the small weasels behind him immediately scurried out, acting as cannon fodder. Seeing this, I couldn't help but clench my fists. It seemed I had underestimated this tricky thief. When the small weasels came over, their eyes darted greedily at the chicken meat. First, they looked around cautiously. Seeing no movement, they rushed into the traps without hesitation. In the next second, their feet were caught by the nooses. They began to struggle in panic. But Huangzhou didn't panic at all. He walked slowly to the broken window, opened his mouth, and sprayed a cloud of green mist into the room. Hiding in the corner, I inhaled some of the mist. Instantly, my head spun, and my vision turned blood red. I even saw countless ghostly shadows waving their claws. Outside the door, Huangzhou let out 2 sneering laughs, then pushed the door open, and walked in, acting more human than ever. Its demonic aura clouded my mind. The hallucinations became more and more real, making me gradually lose control. But just then, a warm current suddenly rose in my lower abdomen. Then I felt a stream of qi surge out, circulating through my whole body. In the next second, the hallucinations in front of me disappeared completely. My mind became clear again. Could this be the power of qi? I rejoiced secretly, but didn't show it. Instead, I continued to pretend to be bewitched, waving my fists and grabbing randomly around the room. You dare to fight me? Huangzhou sneered. You're still too young. He smiled triumphantly, and didn't bother to save the small weasels. Instead, he hurried to the bed, staring at the female corpse as if admiring a rare treasure. I slowly moved closer to the bed, preparing to grab him when the chance came. But just then, Huangzhou looked sad and said, I originally wanted to marry you back to the mountain and drain your energy slowly. But now it seems I won't even get a bite of meat. I'll have to settle for a sip of soup instead. As he spoke, he sat cross-legged on the ground, closed his eyes, and began to breathe in and out. With each breath he took, the female corpse's lower abdomen rose and fell in rhythm. In an instant, the whole room was filled with corpse fragrance. I was shocked. It seemed the corpse fragrance really was cinnabar fragrance. A corpse core was an invaluable treasure for demons and ghosts. Keeping this thing with me, sooner or later it would get me killed. Thinking this, I slowly approached the bed, letting out roars and screams from time to time. Huangzhou thought I was under his spell, so he ignored me, quickly getting lost in the pleasure of absorbing the corpse fragrance. I seized the chance, took out a talisman and threw it at him. Hit by the talisman, Huangzhou woke up instantly, his eyes filled with panic as he struggled. But soon his panicked eyes turned to terror. I thought he was afraid because he knew he couldn't escape from me. But soon, I realized he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the female corpse on the bed. I quickly turned to look at the bed. The female corpse had opened her eyes. Her eyes had turned blood red. Huangzhou looked at me. Stammering kid, tell me the truth. Where did you get this woman? I'm telling you, you can't afford to mess with her. Even 10 lives won't be enough for you to die. I looked at him calmly and said, why should I tell you? Besides, she's my wife. Could she really bite me to death? After hearing this, Huangzhou let out a disdainful snort. Ignorance is bliss, he said. In 7 more days, you'll be beyond saving. In 7 days, her inner core. He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes filled with fear again. He stared fixedly behind me, unable to finish his sentence. Still trying to trick me at a time like this, I thought. I wasn't going to indulge him. I took out another talisman and threw it at him. Huangzhou dodged nimbly, scurrying out of the house quickly. He pointed behind me and shouted, kid, you're dead meat. By now, I also felt that something was wrong. I slowly turned around. The female corpse on the bed had sat up. I stood there frozen, taking several deep breaths to calm myself down. A few minutes later, seeing she didn't make any other moves, I cautiously walked over. Looking at her, I said, wife, don't scare me. I'm just helping you deal with the yellow weasel. We've already paid our respects to heaven and earth. If you bite me to death,
Thigh moment. It's Kipo Krima.
or scare me to death, you'll become a widow. As soon as I finished speaking, the woman fell back down. Seeing this, Huangzhou pointed at me angrily and shouted, "Kid, you just wait! There will come a day when you cry." After yelling this threat, he disappeared into the woods. But while he ran away, his followers were still trapped in my traps. I went to the side room and found an iron cage used for catching mice, then threw all the small weasels into it. After doing this, I shouted into the night, "If you don't come and explain yourself tonight, tomorrow morning, I'll loosen the muscles of your followers." Huangzhou wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, otherwise he could have saved the small weasels just now. But he wouldn't have run too far, and he should have heard what I said. It was already midnight by then. I closed the door and went back inside. Looking at the female corpse on the bed, my gaze finally fell on her lower abdomen, which had risen and fallen earlier. Remembering Mom's worried eyes, I knew I couldn't put this off any longer, but I really didn't dare to burn her now. I thought for a long time, but couldn't come up with a good solution. Fine, I'll just wait 7 days, and see what happens. So I sat by the bed, waiting for Huangzhou. By the early hours of the morning, I was too sleepy to stay awake, so I leaned against the woman's bed and fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, I checked again. Still no sign of a heartbeat. I sighed, feeling helpless. When I went outside, the small weasels were still in the cage. After thinking for a moment, I hardened my heart. "Huangzhou, if you don't come, don't blame me," I muttered. I went back inside, found a rusty wood chopping knife, and grabbed a stone to sharpen it. At the sound of the knife being sharpened, the group of weasels huddled in the cage, trembling with fear. They hadn't become spirits yet, but they already had some sense of intelligence. They knew what their fate would be, and they were scared. While sharpening the knife, I muttered, "You can't blame me. Blame Huangzhou. He's the one who abandoned you." At the same time, I grew anxious. Why wasn't Huangzhou coming? Could he really not care about these weasels? After sharpening for over half an hour, I lost my patience. I stared at the weasels in the cage, genuinely wanting to kill them. Just as I was about to grab them out, Huangzhou's ingratiating voice finally came from a distance. "My brother, Brother Li Yan!" I saw Huangzhou walking over, holding a box. I picked up the knife, waved it in the air a few times, and asked, "What's this about?" Huangzhou squeezed his legs together, trembling. "Brother Li, this is a good thing!" I dug it out from an ancient tomb in the mountains, seeing he still wasn't being honest. I waved the knife and glared at him fiercely. Huangzhou's legs gave way. He knelt down with a thud. "Brother Li, let's forget about this incident. I, Huangzhou, swear, if I ever come here to trouble you again, may I never become human." Huangzhou had finally hit the point. Never become human. For him, this meant never becoming an immortal. Swearing on this made me somewhat relieved. I didn't want things to escalate either. If Huangzhou really was the strongest in a 100-mile radius, and if he stopped trying to get the female corpse, this matter could be considered resolved. Seeing I didn't speak, Huangzhou continued to look at me obsequiously. "Brother Li, there's something I need to warn you about. A powerful creature has come to the mountains these days." Remembering his previous bragging, I looked at him mockingly. "Didn't you boast the other day that you call the shots within 100 miles? Huangzhou looked embarrassed. "Well, my wife isn't here. If she were here, who would dare step into this 100-mile area? But Brother Li, you really need to watch out for what's coming this time." He sounded like he was telling the truth. So I stopped giving him a hard time. I opened the cage and let the small weasels out. Then I looked at him and asked, "Can you tell me what exactly this thing is?" But as soon as the small weasels were free, Huangzhou's attitude changed instantly. He cupped his paws, looking flattering. "Brother Li, may our paths cross again someday." After saying that, he turned to leave. I frowned, unhappy, and called him back. "Take this box back with you. From now on, you can come here whenever you want." Huangzhou's small eyes darted, as if he'd guessed something. "Brother Li, I really don't know what that thing in the mountains is." Hearing this, I glared at him angrily. "Then you don't need to come here ever again. Otherwise, I'll beat you up every time I see you." Huangzhou panicked. "Brother, don't be like that! Can't you make another request?" I thought maybe Huangzhou's wife really was the boss of this 100-mile area, so she must have better information. I decided to compromise. Looking at him, I said, "I won't make things hard for you. But if there's any trouble, in the next few days, you must come and tell me. The moment you find out, deal?" This request was easy for him. He agreed without hesitation, then led the group of weasels away into the distance. After Huangzhou left, my heart felt heavy. That thing from the mountains had entered the 100-mile area. It might even come tonight. I knew I needed to prepare in advance, so I went down the mountain to go home, grabbed some rice and sweet potatoes, then carried Grandpa's chest and left. Mom couldn't hold back. She chased after me, grabbed my arm and asked, "Yang Yang, is that girl dead?" Hearing her question, I didn't know how to answer. Dead or alive. I still hadn't figured it out myself, but I didn't want Mom to worry. So I smiled and said, "She's alive. She's still breathing." Mom obviously didn't believe this. After all, that coffin had been in our house for over 10 years. How could someone inside still be breathing? Mom told me to wait there, then turned and went back inside. She came out with a small bag and stuffed it into my hand. We don't have anything valuable at home, but these are some clothes I bought yesterday when I went to town. Take them to her for a change. I took the clothes, staring at the ground. "Mom, I won't be back for the next 2 days. Don't wait for me to eat." After saying that, I hurried up the mountain. Back at the old house, I dumped out everything in Grandpa's chest. Under the Taoist robe, I found a small box and a Bagua mirror. I opened the box. Inside were a few yellow talismans. Unlike the talismans I'd used before, these ones kept separately in a box must be precious. When I saw the Bagua mirror, I glanced back at the woman on the bed. Surely this thing can tell if she's human or a zombie, I thought. I had the idea, but I was still scared. Because from what had happened before, she could definitely move. If I messed this up, would she strangle me on the spot? I hesitated for a long time, then finally made up my mind. To try, I walked over slowly and placed the Bagua mirror on her forehead. After a few minutes, the mirror showed no reaction. I touched it with my hand. The surface wasn't hot either. It seemed she wasn't a zombie. So I took out a yellow talisman and stuck it on her forehead. After a while, there was still no reaction. I let out a sigh of relief. No matter what she was, at least she wasn't a zombie now, because those things were all used to deal with zombies. To ease my mind, I left the yellow talisman on her forehead. In the evening, I ate something casually, then found an iron basin and made a fire. Grandpa had said that in evil places, electric lights weren't reliable. Only mortal fire would work. After doing this, I took out the book that had fallen from the female corpse and started flipping through it. I only finished junior high school, but I had a large vocabulary. I could recognize most of the characters in the book. But when I tried to do what it said, I found I couldn't do it at all. This was especially true for the chi it mentioned. I held my breath for a long time, and the only thing I almost did was fart. I got no other results. As the sky grew dark, I put the ancient book away, got up and scooped the ash out of the fire basin. Then I sprinkled it evenly around the room. Some things in this world can't be seen with the naked eye, but plant ash or incense ash can make their footprints visible. After handling the plant ash, I wrapped a willow-woven whip around my waist. Grandpa and I had made this whip together. It worked best against evil things. Of course, I also had a peachwood sword, a coin sword, and talismans. Fully armed, I felt a little more at ease. But just then, the corpse fragrance spread out again. I couldn't help but scold the female corpse. "You're such a troublemaker. Are you afraid no one will know how fragrant you are?" As soon as I finished speaking, there was a noise outside. I saw Huangzhou peeking his head out, sneaky as ever. When Huangzhou saw I was fully armed, he quickly tried to curry favor. "Brother Li, I just came to inhale a little bit." Hearing this, I thought, since the fragrance was already spreading, I might as well do him a favor. So I told him to come inside to inhale. Huangzhou shook his head like a rattle. "I'll just stay at the door. I won't come in and bother you." I raised an eyebrow. He wanted to eat for free without doing any work. But if I called him out on it directly, he'd definitely run away. So I chuckled, looked at him and asked, "Huangzhou, you want a concubine? Do you know she's my wife?" As soon as Huangzhou heard this, he panicked. He stood up straight and said, "Brother Li, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. My wife will be back in a few days." I chuckled again. "I won't tell her, but on one condition. Help me tonight. Otherwise, I'll definitely tell her." Domestic discord is a big problem, you know? He didn't agree immediately. Instead, he looked at me cunningly. "Brother Li, which sect did you learn your skills from?" Grandpa had never talked about the origin of the ancient book, and I'd only learned the first volume. I was still half-skilled, but I knew he was testing me. So I puffed out my chest and said proudly, "It's a long story. I learned my skills from Grandpa." But Grandpa said even the Taoist priests from Maoshan would kneel and call him senior when they saw him. I even thought I was bragging too much. Besides, I didn't even know. If the Maoshan sect existed in real life, I'd only seen it in videos at Xiao Pang's house, to make Huangzhou believe me. I pointed at the woman on the bed and said, "Think about it. If Grandpa didn't have real skills, could he have found me such a beautiful wife?" After hearing this, he looked at me sneakily. "In 6 days, can you ask her to owe me a favor? A favor from the female corpse? What kind of background did she have? That even Huangzhou wanted her favor? In 6 days?" I was also looking forward to it, so I nodded, agreeing. Seeing me nod, Huangzhou still didn't feel at ease. "What guarantee do you have that she'll keep this favor?" I laughed twice. "Because she's my wife. If I tell her to go east, do you think she'll go west?" Huangzhou looked at me, snorting. "Brother Li, you can't be sure about that." I could tell what he meant, just by looking at his eyes. I laughed and scolded, "Do you think all men in this world are as cowardly as you? If she doesn't listen, I'll slap her. Do you believe me?" As I spoke, I walked to the bed, gently patted the woman's face twice, and pretended to be about to slap her. Seeing this, Huangzhou was so scared he waved his paws. "Brother, I believe you! I believe you!" With that, Huangzhou walked into the room. First, he glanced at the woman on the bed, then whispered, "Brother Li, I didn't force you to do that just now. You wanted to slap her yourself." After saying that, he honestly found a corner, sat cross-legged like a human, and started meditating. I had a lot of questions to ask him, but when I called him twice, he didn't respond. So I had to give up, thinking that the female corpse might wake up in 6 days. I felt a little guilty. I walked to the bed, leaned close to her ear, and said, "Don't be mad at me." If I hadn't done that, Huangzhou wouldn't have agreed to help. If some pervert comes and takes you away later, they'll definitely violate you. You know I'm right, don't you? You're not talking now, so that means you forgive me. You can't hold it against me later. After explaining, I let out a long sigh of relief. But just then,
My baba dey always say, for market, every day gets im own wahala. Sometimes
the flames in the fire basin started flickering, and the original orange flames turned green. Huangzhou seemed to sense something. He opened his eyes suddenly, tiptoed, and got ready to run. I held a yellow talisman and looked at him unhappily. "Huangzhou, that's not very kind of you." Huangzhou looked at me in panic. "Brother Li, if you keep me here, I'll just be one more corpse. Let me go. When my wife comes back, I'll ask her to avenge you." I waved the yellow talisman in the air, threatening, "If you dare run, in 6 days I'll bring my wife to your house and wipe out your entire family. I want to see, is your wife stronger? Or mine?" After hearing this, Huangzhou let out a bitter laugh. His eyes were fixed on the wooden door. By then, the flames in the fire basin were getting greener and greener, painting the whole room a grim green. I was about to ask Huangzhou what to do next, when the wooden door outside suddenly shattered. Standing at the door was a little girl, about 8 or 9 years old. She was wearing a red dress. As soon as she appeared, the flames in the basin turned an eerie green. Seeing this, Huangzhou turned around and hid behind me, stammering, "Brother Li, that's a fierce ghost." Hearing this, I frowned seriously, took off the willow whip from my waist, and cracked it twice in my hand. Then I looked at the female ghost in front of me and said, "Little girl, you can inhale the fragrance as much as you want, but let's draw a line at the door. We'll leave each other alone. How about that?" At this, the little girl in red started cackling. She pulled out a dagger from behind her and threw it into the room, then looked at me, her voice cold and eerie. "Leave each other alone? Fine, but first throw me the corpse core inside her. Then I'll consider it." Hearing this, I frowned. It was obvious she didn't want to negotiate seriously. Seeing that reasoning wouldn't work, I grabbed Huangzhou and threw him at the red-clothed girl. "If you dare to make demands from me, you have to prove your worth." As I made my move, The little girl's originally delicate face suddenly cracked like a porcelain doll. She opened her mouth, revealing fangs, and let out a snarl. With a slap, she sent Huangzhou flying. Huangzhou crashed to the ground, letting out a scream of agony. Then his legs went limp. He was lifeless. I was shocked. How could he be this fragile? By then, the girl in red had entered the house. She spread her fingers, showing sharp nails as she swiped at me. I stepped back in a hurry, assuming a fighting stance, and whipped my willow branch hard. The girl in red didn't dodge. She reached out and grabbed it. She yanked me toward her, bringing us face to face. Seeing the willow branch did nothing, I drew my peachwood sword and stabbed her. She winced in pain, let go, and stepped back twice. I glared angrily at Huangzhou on the ground, and said, Huangzhou, are you faking death? If you are, I'll throw you right into her hands. At my threat, Huangzhou opened his eyes instantly. He was alive again. After standing up, he stared at the girl fearfully and said, Brother Li, this is a fierce ghost from the mountains. Hurry and take out your best treasures. These dead branches in your hands are useless. My only treasure was a few yellow talismans in my pocket. But with how fierce she was, sticking a talisman on her forehead would be no easy task. As I hesitated, the girl in red pounced again. Seeing this, I reached for Huangzhou, but he'd already prepared. He darted aside in a flash. Just then, the girl in red was already in front of me. She slapped me
Hello,
hard on the chest.
how are you doing?
I flew backward.
Welcome to the channel.
The girl in red chased after me, opening her mouth to bite my neck. I was shocked. Wasn't she a fierce ghost? Why was she biting like a zombie?
Was what?
The moment she pounced, I slapped a talisman on her forehead. A loud bang erupted, accompanied by flames. The yellow talisman exploded on her forehead, sending her flying. Seeing how powerful the talisman was, I grabbed my peachwood sword and chased her,
Mercy.
looking for another chance to strike. But as I lifted the sword, I saw it had turned pitch black and charred. Only half of it remained, with no weapon left. I stopped quickly. Meanwhile, Huangzhou yelled in my ear.
Why do I
talisman,
think I know you?
Hurry! But in the blink of an eye, the girl in red was back in front of me. She grabbed my neck tightly, her long nails scraping toward my carotid artery. Seeing this, Huangzhou spat out a cloud of demonic qi. The qi instantly covered the girl's head. Fierce ghosts lack sense, but they hold sessions. Confused by the demonic qi, she let go of my neck. I quickly stepped back to Huangzhou's side, but something felt off. This red-cloaked ghost, why was she biting and slashing? She didn't act like a ghost at all. Were all creatures from the mountains this peculiar? Huangzhou's cultivation was too weak. In just 10 seconds, the girl in red shook her head hard, dispelling the demonic qi. Her blood-red eyes stared straight at me. Trembling, Joe asked beside me, what do we do? Apart from the few remaining talismans, nothing I had could harm her.
Do I know you
For the
from
first time, I
somewhere?
felt scared.
Mercy.
Moreover, sticking a talisman on her forehead with my bare hands was practically suicide. Looking at her fangs and claws, I decided it was safer to keep my distance. But the girl in red didn't think the same. I saw her stand up. She charged at me at an extremely fast speed. In my desperation, I hurried to feel for the talisman in my pocket. But before my hand could even reach the pocket, the girl in red was already in front of me. She tightly grabbed my neck with her hands. I thought to myself that this was definitely the end. Shocked, my hands became even more uncooperative. I couldn't take out the yellow talisman for a long time. Fortunately, earlier Huangzhou had exhaled a breath of demonic qi, which had affected the girl. Now she seemed to hold a grudge. Her cold gaze fell on Huangzhou, who was beside us. She grabbed Huangzhou's neck with one hand and squeezed hard.
What do you mean by
Blood
what?
immediately oozed from Huangzhou's mouth.
Are you still there?
He was about to be crushed into pulp. Huangzhou hurriedly scratched his buttocks with his claws. The next second, Huangzhou actually pulled out something quite the size of thumb. Although I was choked and couldn't breathe, I was still shocked by the scene. His palm-sized flowery underpants actually had a hole in the back. After getting the item, Huangzhou didn't hesitate at all. He turned around and threw it at the girl in red. A burst of golden light suddenly appeared. The girl in red screamed and flew backward. She hit the ground outside, and after a few struggles, she stopped moving. I was so scared that I collapsed to the ground. Huangzhou also panted heavily, still in fear. He crawled over, picked up the white stone that had fallen on the ground, and stuffed it back into his back pocket. I knew he must have a backup plan. Otherwise, with how afraid he was of death, why would he stay just for a favor? After all, you need to be alive to collect a favor. It's just
Can you hear
he
me?
took out was surprisingly powerful.
Anyone
I
there?
didn't have time to ask him about it. Because after the girl in red was knocked flying, she didn't dissipate. Instead, she lay motionless on the ground. It seemed that she really wasn't a ghost. I took out a yellow talisman, walked over quickly and slapped it on her forehead. Strangely enough, this time the yellow talisman didn't change at all. I reached out and touched her body, and my face suddenly changed, because what was lying on the ground was really a corpse. I looked at Huang Zhou in confusion, and asked, a fierce ghost, shouldn't it be a spiritual body? Huang Zhou also crawled over with a suspicious look, and probed with his claws. After that, fear also appeared in his eyes. The fear in Huang Zhou's eyes suddenly made me think of something. I quickly stepped back, reaching the edge of the bed. I had just stood firm, when the girl in red suddenly stood up straight. The yellow talisman stuck on her forehead, suddenly made a pew sound, and turned into a flame. It lost its effect. Only then did I realize this thing was a spirit corpse. Ordinary talismans couldn't suppress it at all. Simply put, it was a zombie with a soul. When its spiritual body appeared, it was a ghost. When its spiritual body hibernated, it was a zombie. If the spiritual body merged with the zombie corpse, it became something that shouldn't exist in this world. It was said that this was an evil technique for immortality. A person who was dying while still having a breath left used evil methods to refine their body into a zombie body. This way, their soul could reside in it, eternally undestroyed. I had heard my grandfather mention a similar situation before, but I never expected to encounter it here. In shock, I held my breath and tightly closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I saw a wisp of corpse key lingering around the girl in red. I thought there was something wrong with my eyes, so I rubbed them and looked again, but all I could see was the corpse key. There was no spiritual light at all. Although my grandfather was only half competent, he still had some real skills. My spiritual eyes were his handiwork. After the girl in red stood up, she made a hey-hey sound from her mouth. Her body stiffly jumped toward me. I looked at Huang Zhou in surprise and doubt, and asked, what did you use to hit her just now? At this moment, Huang Zhou also recognized the spirit corpse. His face was filled with panic. Trembling, he said, that's a Buddha bone relic. I found it in an ancient tomb. When I was digging a hole in the mountain, the owner of the tomb was a Buddhist believer when he was alive. Now that I think about it, when the girl in red attacked just now, she had separated her spirit from her body. She didn't expect Huang Zhou to have a Buddhist treasure with him, so her spirit was destroyed by that hit just now. Confirming that the girl in red's spirit had been destroyed, I took advantage of the fact that she hadn't jumped over yet, and picked up the willow whip again. Holding the willow whip, I raised my hand and lashed it at her. Peach and willow whips can ward off ghosts. This is common knowledge, but in fact, the things that fear willow branches the most also include the old ginger in the mountains. The reason a corpse becomes a zombie is because it retains an extra breath, and willow branches happen to have the effect of purifying qi. I raised the willow whip in my hand and lashed it at the girl in red. A hissing sound immediately came from her body. A lot of the corpse qi dissipated. When Huang Zhou saw this, he asked in surprise, what's going on? Why is this spirit corpse so weak? I stared at the girl in front of me and said, her spirit was scattered by the relic just now. Now only an empty body remains. After speaking, I raised my hand to lash her again. When Huang Zhou heard this, he shouted loudly, wait! I was startled by him, thinking there was something I hadn't noticed. But unexpectedly, Huang Zhou jumped in front of me, pointed angrily at the girl in red, and said, leave the rest to me! She almost squeezed the life out of me just now. I have to take revenge myself for this humiliation. With her spirit destroyed, this jumping corpse was no longer a threat. So I stepped back to the edge of the bed, preparing to watch Huang Zhou's performance. I saw Huang Zhou holding the relic and flicked it like a marble. A Buddhist sacred object is no ordinary thing. With just one hit, the girl in red was knocked flying again. She landed on the ground outside the courtyard. When the red-clothed female corpse stood up, not only was her corpse qui scattered, but flames also started burning on her body. Zombies don't have much moisture in their bodies.
Good
So
morning, guys. How are you doing?
After that, Huang
Don't
Zhou walked
forget
into
to
the
leave
house
a
with
like
complacent look.
and
As soon as
subscribe
he
to the
entered, he saw
channel.
me
That
staring
supports
at him.
a lot.
He immediately looked at me as if he was guarding against a thief. I originally wanted to take a look at the Buddha bone relic,
Merry
but
Christmas.
seeing his reaction, I didn't want him to look down on me. I snorted and walked out of the courtyard. After
Are you
confirming that
going
the
out
red-clothed
today?
female corpse had been
How
burned
did
to
you spend
nothing,
your
I
Christmas?
finally felt relieved. When I returned to the house, Huangzhou was already sitting cross-legged in the corner, hurriedly absorbing the corpse fragrance. When
Let's
dawn came,
communicate.
the corpse fragrance gradually faded. Huangzhou opened his eyes, stood up, walked over to me and asked, "Brother Shaoli, can you sense auspicious qi?" Hearing this, I just nodded. When Huangzhou saw me nod, his eyes lit up as he stared at me and said, "Then can you help me check? Will I have any good luck recently? Auspicious qi is the foundation of feng shui and destiny. Grandfather once said, with the ability to sense auspicious qi, you don't need divination to tell fortunes. When arranging feng shui, you also act based on observing qi. No need for calculations or deductions." It sounds really amazing, but I had never used this ability before. I didn't know if it was really as powerful as he said. At that moment, I also wanted to try it. So I closed my eyes and then opened them again. Looking at him, I saw a faint red mist floating above his forehead. "You will have a bloody disaster in the next 2 days," I said to him truthfully. Huangzhou rolled his eyes, looking completely unbelieving. "You're definitely lying to me," he said. "I, Lord Huang, eat well and sleep well. Where would a bloody disaster come from? Considering my grandfather's unreliability." I didn't argue with him. As he spoke, Huangzhou walked toward the door. He muttered to himself as he walked, "Even if there is a bloody disaster, it must be because of you this jinx. I need to stay away from you." After saying that, Huangzhou slipped away while I wasn't looking. After Huangzhou left, I climbed back onto the bed and fell asleep next to the female corpse. When I woke up again, it was already noon. I ate something simple, then got more plantash. I spread it all over the floor of the old house. I also understand feng shui formations, but setting one up requires a lot of things. I couldn't find them all in a short time. Female corpse who told him not to say, "I remembered that the day before yesterday when he was about to speak." The female corpse suddenly sat up. Was that a warning? If that was the case, did that mean the female corpse could hear the sounds outside? The thought made me feel uneasy. I had checked her pulse many times these days. Looking at Huangzhou's miserable state, I wondered if I should also run away in advance. Huangzhou leaned back in the chair and groaned twice. "Kid, I did you a big favor last night. Didn't you make something to eat? To help me recover?" It was different when you'd done a good deed. Even his way of addressing me changed. But right now, I was short of company, so I didn't dare argue with him. After chatting for a while, I finally confirmed. Huangzhou had indeed been beaten by his wife. Now he was running away from home, planning to stay with me for a few days. The thought made me overjoyed. So I stood up immediately and said I'd go home to catch a chicken for him. As soon as the word chicken was mentioned, Huangzhou's eyes lit up greedily. He smacked his lips eagerly, urging me to go and come back quickly. Then I walked out the door with a smile. The big stone hanging in my heart was half lifted. Huangzhou had the Buddha bone relic with him, which could ward off all evil. More importantly, if his wife could beat him like this, she must be a tough character. Now that I was keeping Huangzhou here, if something really happened, that woman of his wouldn't possibly stand by and do nothing. When I got home, no one was there. I caught a big rooster from the chicken coop, and also packed a sack of stove ash to carry up the mountain. When Huangzhou saw the big rooster, he limped to the courtyard, and even stood aside directing me to kill the chicken and drain its blood. I knew weasels like to drink chicken blood, so I filled a bowl and handed it to him. After drinking the chicken blood, Huangzhou had a look of contentment, as if he had entered a state of tranquility. I put the rest of the chicken in a pot to stew, and spread another layer of the plant ash I had brought from home on the ground. At this time, Huangzhou stood aside and looked at me mockingly. "You kid, doing all this, you can guard against things from the mountain, but you can't guard against humans." I sensed there was more to his words, so I asked him what he meant. When Huangzhou heard my question, he started talking freely. He told me many things he had seen and heard. It turned out that Taoist sects really existed. Among them, there was not only the Maoshan school, but also various other branches. Huangzhou also said, actually every year these years, there have been Taoist priests entering the deep mountain, and it seems they've been looking for something. But over the past few years, he had only seen people go in, never seen anyone come out. Basically, it meant that all those who went in had died in the mountain. I listened with a sigh. and asked, with so many people going in over 10 years, why haven't I met a single one? Huangzhou rolled his eyes and looked at me with a "you're so ignorant" expression. Those who go in are all important figures. They come and go without a trace. What makes you think a mortal like you would see them? Taoist techniques are profound and extensive. I believed that, but to say they come and go without a trace, I didn't believe that. Those people must have snuck into the mountains secretly. When Huangzhou said I couldn't guard against humans, he must have been referring to this kind of people. After hearing what he said, my relaxed mood became tense again. At this time, Huangzhou sniffed and said, "The meat is stewed and fragrant. Go check if it's cooked." I could tell Huangzhou really knew a lot of things, so I quickly brought the chicken meat up. Huangzhou ate happily and told me more stories about the mountain. But every time I asked about the female corpse's origin, he became evasive. He told me not to ask, saying, "Since you've already vowed to heaven and earth with her, you might have a good with her. If you grasp it well, you'll have a good future." Grandfather had always but this marriage was like a forced melon. It even felt like I was taking advantage of her misfortune. After hearing all this, my desire to protect her grew stronger. It wasn't for any opportunity, nor was it to give grandfather an explanation. It was only because we had bowed to heaven and earth together. I just wanted to do what I should do well. Huangzhou ate until his stomach was round. He gave me a bad idea. He told me to take advantage of these days to take care of that woman. Once you're husband and wife for a day, you'll have affection for 100 days. It will be easier to talk then. I gave him a big eye roll. It wasn't that I was noble. Mainly I just didn't know how to do that kind of thing. After eating and drinking their fill, the sun was setting outside. Another night was about to come. I cleaned up the pots and bowls and tidied up the things that had been scattered the night before. Just then a young weasel suddenly slipped in. It ran to Huangzhou and muttered a while, then glanced at me and turned around to run away. After the young weasel left, Huangzhou looked at me with a serious expression. "I'm afraid you'll have to move your wife to another place. My kid just came to say, 2 Taoist priests have come into the mountain." I frowned slightly. Puzzled, I asked, "Shouldn't Taoists all be upright? When something like this happens, shouldn't they help me?" Huangzhou didn't answer. He just glanced at the female corpse on the bed. Whether someone is good or bad depends on the person, not their profession. Some Taoist priests are even more terrifying when they're evil than ordinary people. His words made sense. But this was a desolate mountain area. Where could I move her? If I moved her home, I was afraid of getting my parents involved. Seeing me hesitate, Huangzhou thought for a moment and said, "There's a cave not far from here. Why don't you take shelter there temporarily? The enclosed space will also help cover the corpse fragrance." After hesitating for a moment, I nodded in agreement. Having a cave was better than sleeping in the open. The female corpse wasn't heavy, only about 40 kilograms, but carrying her on my small frame still made me struggle a little. However, with Huangzhou and his descendants leading the way, we soon arrived at a hidden cave entrance. I didn't go in immediately. Instead, I checked the aura inside, only after confirming it was normal did I carry the female corpse inside. I found a flat spot, cleared away the stones, and laid out the mat and bed sheet I had brought. Only then did I
I'll
place
be
the
ending the
female
live
corpse on
stream
top.
now. See
By
you
this time, it was
tomorrow.
already dark
Love you.
outside.
Thanks for
Huangzhou dismissed his descendants.
chats.
He buried the Buddha bone relic as a
Thanks for
cave
your
entrance
likes.
to block
Thanks
the
for your
corpse
support.
fragrance.
Love you.
Seeing him do this,
Bye.
I frowned slightly.